Welcome back, everybody, to the ND and Free podcast in partnership with the Awareness Space, a podcast and media platform that explores how NDers can live their truth and feel free in their lives. We hear from inspiring coaches, therapists, experts, and fellow NDers from all over the world. I'm Owen Morgan, a wellbeing coach and now ADHD coach. I have over 10 years' experience in the wellbeing sector and I've interviewed over 500 people across 4 podcasts. I received my ADHD diagnosis at 41 and it changed my life. My mission is to explore how the human spirit and understanding our whole self can bring us a life full of possibilities. So, very special, guys. You've just heard a panel show, and we have another one, but I'm just mixing up the genders this time around. So we're back for another Me, Myself, and ND episode, hearing powerful stories from inspiring people. We have 2 returning guests for another panel show. Like I say, we've got Dan Katona from episode 40 and Scott Frampton from episode 44. Links are in the show notes. Go and listen to their amazing stories and inspiring futures ahead of them. Today, we're talking all things men's mental health and health generally as a man, but with the caveat of neurodivergence, ADHD, AUDHD, something that not many people talk about. And I'm hoping that means this is going to be epic. So let's just remind ourselves who we have here. So we've got Dan Katona and Scott Frampton. Dan is a tattoo artist, father, and ADHDer. He is an ND advocate and shares his journey on social media. Scott runs his Instagram page, Sober Compass, where he shares experiences of recovery, healing, and the power of breathwork as a breathwork practitioner. I'm exhausted. Welcome back, guys. Welcome, Dan. How have you been since our last episode? I know we're friends now. A lot has happened to you, which we might get to in this episode.
Hi. Thanks for having me back on. Lots happened. The big one is getting my official autism and ADHD diagnosis. So that's the big one for me. It's that yeah, it's been a journey, to say the least.
Yeah, very powerful. Obviously, you messaged me, and it was really special, just kind of like to be there for you. And if people listen to your previous episode, you knew, and it just must have been. We'll talk about it a little bit later on, about how powerful that must have been in that moment. It's very emotional. And I never know what to say to people. Like, is it like, oh wow, or is it congrats, or is it oh shit? It's hard to know what you're supposed to say,
Yeah.
but we'll find out. How about you, Scott? How have things been? It sounds like you've been doing a lot of traveling, based on some of the places you've been.
Yeah, it's been pretty good, I've got to say. Just in amongst life, to be honest with you. Getting used to the medication, getting used to, having a mind that isn't constantly churning is nice, and it's opened up a different challenge of what do I do with that mental energy, you know. But no, it's good. I've got no complaints. No complaints.
Yeah, I encourage people to listen to your episode too about your journey, because it was so early on into the medication journey. It's been fascinating for me, non-medicated, to hear how incredible in so many ways it can be. And do I do it or do I not? So it's a great episode for sort of diving into that, which is amazing. And if anyone doesn't know already, I suspected a year before diagnosis when my partner was diagnosed, and then at 41 in 2024 October. So it's nearly my year anniversary of my diagnosis, which I guess I'll toast to that in a couple of weeks' time. So we're all pretty fresh, because basically, aren't we? To be fair,
Yeah, yeah.
which is huge. So just to give us some context here, so Dan, just remind us again, why you're out there spreading the message, spreading the word. Why do you care so much about it? Why are you here for us, man? What's it all about?
I think because I know how these things can feel personally, and I think a lot of the time for people, a lot of people, neurodivergent people, or other people who've gone through mental health issues, we don't want others to feel the lows that we felt and feeling alone during those times. Um, as we've spoken before, I'm a massive advocate, not just for sort of neurodivergence, but for mental health anyway, and just people talking more openly and honestly. I encourage a lot of people to open up in my tattoo studio. So while I'm tattooing away, we'll talk about anything and everything. And just through doing that, I found that a lot of people, they'll talk to me about things that they haven't spoken to their friends, their family, their partners, their parents about. And you just see that relief. You just see their shoulders drop. And, the very physical side, that you see their breathing change. You see they just smile, and it's that feeling for me. I don't know if it might even be a bit selfish, but I'm trying to help other people, but I'm doing it because it makes me feel good as well. But it's just knowing that, yeah, helping people get those things off their chest. It's well, it helps everyone, doesn't it? Really, I feel better, they feel better, and why wouldn't you want that?
Certainly, certainly. And I don't know if I mentioned last time when I was doing my massage work, it was the same thing. People coming to sort out their shoulders or their bad back, but they couldn't help themselves. But, sort of share what they're going through, which was really beautiful because it meant I could hold that space for them and actually help their body literally in that moment, release some of that tension and stress. So it seems very familiar. So Scott, yeah, let us know more about your doing because obviously this breath work side of things is incredible, and it seems like you're really pushing towards that and getting the qualifications you need and all this good stuff. So yeah, tell us more about that and why you care about NDAs.
Yeah, kind of echoed Dan really in that, I wasn't aware of having ADHD. I always thought I never did because I was never hyperactive. So it just wasn't an area that I explored. And in that kind of time of not exploring that, there was a lot of pain. Like Dan says, there's a lot of, I guess, destructive coping mechanisms, a lot of suffering. And I too kind of like to talk about mental health, especially men's mental health. Society is changing slowly. I think people are being more open about certain aspects of the struggle. But I just kind of want to I guess share an authentic experience. I find that if you can do that, it gives people permission of their own to open up. So yeah, really passionate about talking about mental health and men's mental health in particular. But the breathwork thing was there's a very long story, but the short story is I had a bit of a transformational experience of breathwork about nearly 2 years ago at a healing retreat. I essentially did a 45-minute session, first time ever, and it brought some things up that 15 years of therapy hadn't gone there. And it was such a all body release of so much emotion and pain, and it was just, I was like, wow, there is something here. So I'd spent all this time looking in here, but no time looking in my body. So kind of decided, I want to take this to other people, and it's really fulfilling and really powerful.
Oh, it's amazing, man. I think there's something to be said for deep presence work,
Mhm.
but with the body.
Yeah,
So rather than just say meditating and I'm not connecting, not attaching to thoughts, that's one thing. But I
yeah,
think there's something very powerful about getting the body online,
yes.
and seeing what it's got to tell us. That maybe, cognitive talking will not suffice. So that's really, really powerful too. Amazing. Thanks, guys. Nice bit of context there. So let's jump into this. This is going to be interesting. So let's kick off with our thoughts on where we are in 2025 as far as men and neurodivergent awareness goes. The reason I'm saying this is because so many women have been misdiagnosed and missed way more than men. The stats show that they're getting missed completely, and it is heartbreaking. And there's so much good stuff happening out there. And I've had so many women on the show, and we're doing really good work here with it as well. But what I'm intrigued by is how many men are being diagnosed, completely hiding it, not wanting to share it with their mates or whatever, or not even going anywhere near it. So even though it's more common for men to, or young boys to be given the ADHD label, I have to say, I'm not seeing much out there on Instagram and TikTok of ADHD men in that vulnerable way, much more in the, hey, here's a joke about ADHD, but still powerful, but not the deep chat work that I think we may need. So, Dan, where you're on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, and you're around. So, how are you seeing it right now in this moment? Do you think there's a lot of awareness of neurodivergent in men? I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you think?
I really don't think there is. But through speaking to a lot of men, obviously again, so through my work, obviously tattoo men and women, and a lot of the women I speak to are very open about the fact that they believe they may be neurodivergent and they are seeking that diagnosis, or they may not be seeking a diagnosis, but they've done a lot of research into it. A lot of men, I get the same answer a lot of the time, and I see a lot of it online as well. Of I don't need a label, or I've gotten this far in my life without being diagnosed or without medication if it's for ADHD. I've made it this far, so why would I need to do that? Why would I need to look into that? It's not going to change who I am. There's a lot of sort of a lot of pushback, I don't know, I can't really think of the right word, but there's a lot of men seem to be, I don't know, it feels like they're almost afraid of that vulnerability, or seeing it as being vulnerable, which again is why I make such a big point of talking about it. Um, just from my point of view. I mean, all I can do is say things from my point of view, but I do find from day-to-day conversations, a lot of men sort of try to brush it off.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I think there's an aspect of men will say, oh, I've got anxiety or depression, and they might have some shame about that. But that seems like a more fleeting thing, perhaps, something that will come and go. Whereas if I think you say you have a certain neurotype, it's suddenly, I don't know, maybe admitting, oh, I really struggle and I have a brain that I can't fix or change. That seems worse, actually. Actually, when you think about it on paper, they're much less likely to say I'm dysfunctional if they don't have the education around it all and what it actually truly means. So yeah, what about you, Scott? What especially like I guess men engaging in breath work is getting very popular now, which is fantastic, and men's retreats have become much more popular, which is awesome. But how are you seeing the overall landscape, do you think, at the moment for ND men?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I guess, similar in a way to the general conventional mental health challenges we might have, like you mentioned there, anxiety, depression, panic disorder, things like that, right? In that for certain men of certain backgrounds, perhaps it's very hard to admit those things because, like Dan and yourself have said, it can be perceived as a weakness, as a flaw, as something that may undermine a man's sense of his own strength, power, worth, right? And so that can kind of lead us to hide, not speak out, and so I've seen, I guess I think I've seen more men in my circle explore ADHD as a diagnosis because I think that when it comes to ADHD and autism or the blend, I think that ADHD is become a bit more. I could be wrong here, but in my perception, a bit more accepted. It's almost some people, and this could be wrong as well, almost see it as like a little bit of a badge of I've got ADHD. It's kind of in some ways it can be seen by some as a positive thing, and that helps the conversation. But at the same time, I think it's hard to put it into words. I don't think we're there. I don't think we're there. I think the underlying fear that men have of admitting weakness, terrible word, a word that I can't stand, is still kind of ingrained, and it's going to take a while to shift that. And I think it only gets shifted by other men talking about this stuff, right? Because the data shows that men are seeking out conventional help, therapies. They're going to the kind of the services that are offered, but they don't have the language to explain how they feel. It's yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. That's a bit of a meandering answer, but I think at the end of the day, it's fear of judgment, I think, is a factor.
Yeah, and there's a good point there about language as well. It's having the language to explain it. That's a huge one, actually. No, you're right. I take for granted that I've done all this studying and I love to learn and read books and listen to podcasts about it. So I have the language. I take that for granted sometimes. And I might speak to guys about it and they just sort of look at me like, what's he talking about?
Yeah,
And I just hope maybe it's landing in some way. But I think I don't know if it's the right word, but ADHD is kind of right now on online, kind of like it's kind of in, isn't it? Like,
yes,
hey,
yeah,
I got ADHD. It's been kind of made into this popularized thing, which is kind of good,
yeah.
but kind of not good at the same time because it's turning it into a fad, which we
Mm.
really don't want. This is like a serious thing, and I notice for you, Dan, obviously with the ADHD diagnosis, that I'm seeing even less male autism-based content, and I do wonder if autism is still way behind. It's like 10 years behind on people's opinion of what it is. You can't be. That we're way further back. Do you feel that might be the case? As an ADHDer, how do you feel about the two? Are you equally as accepting of both? And do you feel that people would be, or are you on the fence with, do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say?
Um, so I'm equally accepting now. I wasn't um, at first, but actually it was more towards the ADHD side that I wasn't sort of as accepting of. Just for me personally, and again, sort of like you were saying, Scott, because you weren't known as a hyperactive one, it's again, growing up in the 90s, if you were the hyper one, if you were the naughty child, it was ADHD. Anything else, any other traits, it wasn't ADHD. It was just, you were just different. Same with autism. If you didn't have sort of like the stereotypical traits of autism, you weren't autistic. So and it's good that there's so much more known about it now. But I still think, yeah, because I'm not always physically hyperactive. My brain's always going. I can see you nodding along, Scott, and so I assume you feel the same. Your brain goes a mile a minute, but that was never taught to us that was hyperactivity. So I've really struggled to actually accept the ADHD side of things. The autism side of things, for me personally, was a bit easier to accept, and it sort of helped explain a lot of things. But I could be completely wrong with this. This is just my opinion. I think where there's been so much emphasis on women and girls with autism, as there should be, because as you said, they are, they're just missed completely. It's not even like a misdiagnosis. They're just completely missed. So I think where there's been so much focus on them, and a lot of women are feeling empowered to speak up and speak out about autism, I think that a lot of men, especially late diagnosed men, we still have that thing of, oh well, I'm autistic, but I didn't show all the classic signs. So am I actually? Because these are the traits in the women, and the women, they're speaking up about it, but well, I don't have this trait, and I'm not like this, and I'm not like the typical autistic person that I was always taught about in the 90s and the early 2000s. So I think a lot of people have that denial of, I'm not autistic, or I'm not as autistic. And I think a lot of men sort of struggle with that if they notice some traits, but it's that comparison. I don't know if I'm making much sense here, but it's that sort of comparison of women and your stereotypical autistic man. Well, women are speaking out, but I can't really relate to that. I'm not as autistic as them, so sort of feel a bit left in a void. And it's also, I'm not autistic, or I'm not going to look into it.
Yeah, it's there's a power, isn't there, in the list? There's a power in a list of traits, and there's a power in comparison to try and get a measurement. There is power there, and it's led a lot of people to go to the diagnosis assessment pathway. But they're also quite dangerous as well, because, well, I can't be, because of that list. When really all it really matters is how you experience life in every single moment you have. What do you struggle with? What do you thrive in? What you just can't get past, and what other things do you do with ease? That's really where it sits. And actually, once you do that, you can go, well, that seems like that's my interpretation of my neurotype. That's how my brain works. Just drop the word. That's how my brain works. How can I help myself? It's
I think. Sorry, I'm really bad for interrupting.
No, go for it.
As we all probably are with ADHD. Just mentioning that, I think the other thing, something you said just made me think as well, that there's this thing at the moment. I don't know if it's been a thing for a while, of, well, everyone's a little bit autistic, everyone's a little bit ADHD, and I think that's a big problem as well. That it's sort of like, oh yeah, but I forget things sometimes. So I've got ADHD, or oh yeah, I get a bit hyper sometimes, and I've got, or oh, do you know what? There are certain sounds that I don't like, so I've got autism, and it's not, just because that's one trait. I don't like to use the word symptom, but it was because one trait doesn't mean that everyone's a little bit autistic. But I think that's a big thing as well, is what's the point in chasing a diagnosis or really looking into something much if it's something that everyone's got anyway, and everyone's somewhere on the spectrum, which, as we know, isn't the case. But I do think that that's something that's getting in the way as well.
Yeah, sure does. And Scott, what are your thoughts on this? Because it's quite an interesting one, isn't it? Because people, I don't know if you remember this back in the day. It seems to be more then. People they were like really obsessed. They think they're obsessed with tidying a room or something. Oh God, it's my OCD. Oh God, I can't stop doing this because of my OCD. And it used to happen all the time back then. I was like, well, let's just be careful here, because OCD is like absolutely devastating to people. And then it's spectrum based as well. So anyway, that was just my little tangent about OCD. But Scott, what are your thoughts on all of this so far?
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I think certainly when it comes to the opting in to certain traits. So like Dan says, hyperactivity. I'm a little bit hyperactive sometimes, so I must have ADHD, or I, like you just said, I organise things on my desk. I must have OCD and that sort of thing, right? And they sometimes when it's like that, it's framed as a quirk, a kind of a simple to deal with quirk. But we know that, and I think this is another thing about, I can only speak from an ADHD perspective, in that, people can see the energy and the passion and the kind of friendliness and the ability to integrate, even if we're quite introverted, but they don't see the rejection sensitivity. They don't feel that. They don't feel the churning of 50 voices in your head all arguing with each other while you're trying to concentrate on the 3 browser tabs you've got open. They don't see that kind of level of emotional and mental churn that's going on. And so I think those kind of conversations where it's like, no, everyone's got a bit of it. Well, many people may have certain similar traits, but I think that does hurt the overall conversation, in that it could make people that actually do have a number of these traits think, well, that's everyone's got it. Like Dan said, everyone's got it, so I don't need to explore it, because what's going to do to help me? So yeah, I agree with both of what you said. It's a challenging one, because as we know as well, my ADHD is different to your ADHD. It's completely different, and I think there's always a kind of temptation to compare ourselves to others. We see this a lot in recovery. It's like, well, I can't be an alcoholic because I didn't do that, and that. But it's actually the similarities you want to look at, not the differences. And for me, that was a big blocker for me, is in thinking, well, I'm not what that person says ADHD is. I'm not what that person says ADHD is. So I just kind of, no, it's fine. So I think clear education, really simplified education that really strikes at the heart of what ADHD and autism is, but allows for that personal layer on top of it. Because like I said, mine is different to yours. I'm quite a quiet, shy guy. And so I originally thought, well, that I can't be ADHD because I'm not, loud and bubbly, and I don't like being the life and soul of the center of the party or center of attention. But that's just my version. Like Dan says, my hyperactivity was in my head, and it was relentless, just relentless. But outwardly, I was quiet, obedient, not straight A's, unfortunately. I tried hard. But I wasn't what you would think when you think of ADHD. I wasn't that child. I was the complete opposite.
Yeah, and people can have their perceptions.
Yeah, of course.
So we don't want to waste our energy on. If you haven't to convince people of your truth and your authenticity, then maybe they're not quite the right people in this moment to help you on your journey, because there shouldn't be some big pitch. I felt like I was having to do some pitching to some of the people that I know. I thought, well, this doesn't feel right, and having to justify. I don't have to justify my authentic truth. And also, this is really complicated. We can spend all the episode, we're not going to, but on this, because at the end of the day, the diagnostic criteria, the assessment, the DSM, as they call it, is very outdated. Any person in the assessment world, especially privately, will say it's very outdated. The questions are asking aren't up to date. It's not taking into consideration sensory issues necessarily. So we are also needing the actual assessment industry to catch up with us out there doing our good work.
Yeah, well, mentioning about the assessment, my autism assessment, I was reading through it, and it said that for my face-to-face, my ADOS2, I was almost actually marked by that one assessor as not autistic. But in the footnote, she did mention that she could tell that I was masking. I'm very, very, very high masking. I can't remember what the bit of the assessment is, but whatever code it is, I marked like off the scale with my masking. And that's because, again, I'm in an unfamiliar environment one-on-one, someone I've never met before, in in a town I've never been to, in an office I've never been to. I'm going to be masking. But I was almost marked as not autistic because I didn't show enough traits, because I was masking so much through my assessment without meaning to, because, well, that is literally what we've spent our lives doing. So I agree with you, Owen, saying that, the assessment, the way the assessment's done, it needs to change. There needs to be a big change, because if all my paperwork that I sent in, my questionnaires and my other assessment for my combined, because I managed to get an ADHD and autism combined assessment through one, but that was through Zoom, and I was able to have my headphones on, and I didn't even have to be on camera, so I could just walk around, and so that sort of like argued a lot of the points that came up on the face-to-face ADOS 2 was argued by the other guy, because he was like, well, I saw this guy, I saw Dan in his own house, like, through this, and so I was able to be a lot more my authentic self. So had I not had that, then I may not have got my diagnosis.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Because like my friend's son went for an assessment, and he knows how to put on a show. He's already camouflaging and masking. He's in a high need class. He sees it live, and he knows what he needs to do. And when when they get school reports and all this kind of stuff, they can see that's not the child that they know at home. Especially social interaction and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, he goes for assessment. He doesn't get it. Because he's even in this, in this awkward clinic space. Hey, huh, yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with this. And it's kind of heartbreaking, really, because even that young, they're already kicking into the, putting on that camouflage. Camouflage is a big word being used in ND at the moment. Camouflaging to fit in, and then they're getting missed even at that age. So we always think, oh yes, these generation, they're just going to get diagnoses and they're good to go. They're still camouflaging, and they're still trying to fit in, because that's what we do as humans. We just want to be accepted, and we'll do whatever it takes to be welcomed into a tribe. Otherwise, we die. That is caveman. We have to be part of a tribe. We won't last long enough. So anyway, that's my little tangent about that, because it's we are the next generation. I'm really excited for them, but there's still because of the assessment criteria, people are getting missed, which I think is really, really harsh.
I think one point I'd add on the assessment side of things as well, because I think when I really understand the need to collect a lot of data, but that set of forms that you're given as someone with ADHD is almost like a test in itself, because it's like, this feels like a mountain. I think I got the forms and I didn't start them for 3 months. It's like, I can't even look at it. It's too big. And so I don't know how they would change that, but I feel like more interactive engagement to kind of try and understand where you are to start with would help a lot of people, because I imagine a lot of people look at that form and be like, nah, I'm not doing it. My perspective.
Yeah, I see some autistic form stuff, and it's like even more for that. And quite rightly, I mean, there seems to be something slightly different about the autism assessment in isolation. It seems to be a lot more in depth, which I find fascinating, because you'd think, why are they not both in depth? I don't know. It's very interesting where we're at. I don't know. I can't wait to see what happens going forward. But the reason I was saying about my friend's child is because the school didn't pick up on anything. So if your school isn't backing you up, as a parent, you're screwed, because it's you versus them, and they're just not going to diagnose them. And that's another problem in itself. Anyway, yeah, go on, Dan. Well,
no, it's right. It was literally just little add-ons to that, just very quickly. Same with my son. So I mentioned to the preschool about I was already noticing some signs about my son. Could they keep an eye on things? They said, no, haven't spotted anything. We do, we're trained for this. We haven't spotted anything. Met up with a couple of the teachers and the manager outside of the preschool, went up to the park with a few of the other kids from preschool. Straight away, the manager pulled me aside. You need to get him assessed straight away. So even that was in preschool, 3-4 years old, one session of being out at the park that he knows, and straight away she had a different opinion on him, and she's been with him for the past 2.5 years. So
yeah, It says it all. Again, as we always, I've said for years and years of doing podcasting, this isn't against any human being. This is against systems.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's all about systems, and how they're told to do it, and they can't break outside of what they're told to do. Completely makes sense as well. So I don't know. It's a fascinating time. But just to echo, I've met some amazing assessors already through the podcast who are doing gorgeous, amazing, wonderful assessment work with this true neuroaffirming, safe, trauma-informed online assessment work. Incredible. And I'll be promoting them to the end. So big shout out to all of those because they're amazing human beings. Right. Well, we still have a little bit of time left here because I realized that question was loaded. Let's just talk about a little bit about what our thoughts are as a man when it comes to sort of relationships, dating, friendships. So interpersonal relationships with other human beings as an NDer and as a man, because there's expectations still, whether we like it or not, to be a kind of man that I don't know what it is, strong, powerful, but vulnerable, can speak about his emotions, but can kick ass and raise a son or a daughter to be an amazing citizen. Let's be honest, that's not changed. And the mums are labeled with all the stuff they need to do as well. But ND wise, Scott, what your experience is there? So you say you're, outwardly quiet, maybe a bit more introverted. How do you find as an ND man at your age, friendships, dating relationships? How does it feel? Is it rough? As much as you're willing to share.
Yeah, sure. So I, having been diagnosed in February this year, with suspicions for 4 or 5 years before that, it was actually an ex-partner that kind of said to me when she went for her assessment, she's like, I can think of 10 examples for Scott for each of these. And of course, being ADHD, I resisted and said, no, I can't have it anyway. That's a bit of a tangent, but I've found as I've got a bit older and as I've been, because it is related, as I've been in recovery and sober, I've found myself a bit more in that I've embraced the fact that I am quieter than I thought. I am more comfortable in quiet environments around nature, with just a small group of friends. So my circle shrunk quite a lot. And that makes it really easy for me to be able to be myself and to have open conversations with my friends about, the ways I might be. And so I've actually found it quite easy to be vulnerable with male friends, because I think to look at me, I'm quite bulky. I've got shaved head under here and all of that, so I look like a tough guy, but I'm actually not. So I kind of embrace that and go with that, and I think that's helpful for me. But where it's been challenging in romantic relationships is striking that balance between being vulnerable and not wanting to appear weak, and not wanting to what's the word? Seem overly fragile. And that's really at odds with certainly my conditioning growing up of, men are men don't cry, be tough, go out and, drink loads of beer and whatever else. I never really kind of fitted that mold. I pretended to for many, many years. But in relationships in particular, I've found it really difficult to be that strong, assured, confident guy, and allow myself to be vulnerable, allow myself to maybe cry in front of a partner. In fact, very recently, I did cry in front of someone, a partner. And even with all of my, men embrace your feelings, men, embrace your emotions, there's no shame to cry. Even with all of that in my mind, I was like, you shouldn't be crying. What's wrong with you? And that's just deep conditioning. So I think all of that, if you lay the ADHD or the neurodivergence on top of it, like in a relationship, a romantic relationship, some of it's fun, energy, and like I said earlier, energy and random tangents and jokes and that sort of thing. But like I said before, being sensitive to rejection, overthinking things, really scanning a text message for, hidden meanings and that sort of thing can take its toll on people, and it can take its toll on yourself. So I have found that in a relationship, I think that it's better possibly if both parties have ADHD, in my perspective, because you have that shared sense of empathy and you shared understanding of, okay, I get what they're doing here. They're in a bit of a spiral. But at the same time, what that can mean is if you're both very sensitive, then small things can become big things if you don't have a framework, if you don't have a clear understanding, and one of you is not able to say, right, time out, let's separate, let's go into separate rooms and calm down. So as long as you've both got that awareness and you're both committed to, your healing and your ongoing, I guess, just development, I think being in a relationship with someone without ADHD, for me was very, very challenging. Very challenging. So yes, that's a very long-winded answer, I think.
No. It's designed to be as such. There's lots that you said there that I can echo as well. But I think we do feel there's a heightened sensitivity to any experience that we have, which means that we can feel extreme joy and awe and all of that, which is wonderful. But it means that we can feel those subtleties in a person's response to us. What's that? Trying to seek to understand. I know a lot of my friends autistic say they can't help but have their mind trying to figure out what it all meant, scripting before you go into something, or analyzing afterwards, what does it mean? And I don't have that as much, and it looks exhausting, and my heart goes out to them, because that's their brain wants to do it, and you have to use all these tools to stop doing that. So Dan, it'd be interesting, with your experience, this, like I said, you got client work, you got friendships and relationships, and you're a dad as well, big thing. I'll leave it there, but I guess because it's a dual diagnosis, I guess that must get a bit complicated, the push and pull to how you interact with people, maybe needing solitude, but also longing for connection. How does it all look?
Exhausting. The easiest way to put it is exhausting. So if we go sort of, as you were talking about, sort of like more romantic sort of relationships and stuff, it's all or nothing. It's either sort of okay. Yeah, I know that there should be some sort of feeling there. I sort of feel something, but I'm just not really, can't really be bothered to pursue it. Or it's, this is all I want. It's all I can think about. It's, is 0 or it's 100. And then saying about sort of the rejection sensitivity as for is, it's debilitating. If it is, a lot of people again think it's just we feel rejection more, so we can actually feel rejection in things that aren't necessarily perceived as rejection by neurotypical people, or just people, and even neurodivergent people that don't have RSD. And I'm particularly bad with RSD, and then you add in the autism and say that so if I message someone and I don't get a message back, and I know that they're really busy, I know that they've got a million and one things going on, and they also can't be on their phone while they're at work or while they're with their kids or whatever it is they're doing. I know all of that, but it doesn't change the fact that I feel physically sick and in pain from the fact that I'm not getting a reply. And then straight away, it's like, well, it's 4:42, and I know that at 4:30 they should be free. So what? And but then it's trying to pull myself back. I don't always want to talk. I don't always reply to people. I mean, Owen, you know that. I'm not best at replying anyway. And then if I'm stressed, if I'm busy, or even if I just don't feel up to it, I won't reply for a while. I might not reply for a couple of days. But I know why I'm doing that. And I just assume that everyone else would get that. But then when it happens to me, I cannot wrap my head around it. And then if I do get a message from someone, like I say, oh, well, they usually put a kiss at the end of their messages, but they didn't this time. Or, oh, well, usually their messages are sort of left open, but there's a full stop at the end of that one, but they never usually use full stops. Why are they using full stops? Oh, well, typically they'd put an emoji there, but they haven't put an emoji there that time. It's looking into things that much. If they use shorthand, if they usually spell like thank you with like spell it properly, but then this time they've just put the letter U instead of right. I'll spend half an hour trying to work out the difference in like those two letters that are missing. And that is one text from one person. Now, if you think of a whole multiple conversation with multiple people, it's exhausting. And yeah, I'll be honest, it's tough because this came up in my assessment as well. It's sort of like, just like anyone or like most people, I do want that connection. I do want someone, but also I sort of want it on my terms. And it's if I want to be talking to you all day every day, I'm gonna feel rejected if you don't do that, because at that time it's sort of like I've got that, getting that dopamine hit and from talking to you, and I want to, back and forth, regardless of what we're doing. I could just fixate on talking to you or being on the phone to you or video calling or whatever. But then if I'm not feeling it, don't why do you keep texting me? Like, leave me alone. I don't Oh, you're really annoying me now because my phone's going off and I don't want to talk right now. And I'm aware that that is, giving mixed signals. And that is, just in romantic relationships, in friendships as well. But I realize how much that gives mixed signals, but I can't help it. That's literally a switch it's happening in my brain. And that can make things really tough. And then Scott, you're saying about sort of dating other neurodivergent people, like ADHD and stuff. Um, I I can't comment on that exactly. I think just because, so I have dated a couple of people, and like I'm fairly certain that they've got ADHD, autism, one, the other, both, but it's not diagnosed. In a lot of them, so it's something that they might suspect, their families might suspect, or I've come along and gone, have you ever thought of this? But because it's something that's not diagnosed, it's not something that it's not something that they've looked into like we have. It's Again, it's sort of like that. I found there's been a bit of quite a bit of resistance, and it's actually been quite an issue between us, because I'm picking up on all these patterns, through pattern recognition. I'm picking up on all this stuff and going, well, that's because of that, that's because of that, that's because of that. But they're in that thing of, well, no, this is just me. This is just how I deal with things. This is, there's nothing, I don't need to. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that people need to seek a diagnosis. I'm not saying that people need to even, fully understand why they are the way they are, how, if they don't want to, like, each their own, that's fine. But where I am aware of this stuff, and I can see patterns that I used to repeat. So I used to be an alcoholic and a drug addict. And so I was dating someone a while ago, and they were drinking loads but didn't have a problem. And it's just, oh yeah, but it's just the way, sort of it. I just like, I just feel more confident like that. And then, it's my way of unwinding. It's this, it's that. It's like, I'm seeing these signs. I'm trying to sort of, in a roundabout way, sort of say like, it's because of the ADHD and the dopamine and blah, blah, and this, that, and the other. But then that becomes an issue, because it's sort of like, stop trying to diagnose me. Stop telling me that there's something wrong with me. But then, so yeah, things sort of then obviously going to fizzle out on Faye, because they're not at the same place as me now. So I think that's quite a tricky thing. And yes, when you said about my son, that's probably one of the biggest sort of hardest things for me, because bless him, he knows he's 4, he's 5 next month, or this month now, and he gets the way I am sometimes. Like, he'll come up, Daddy, are you touched out? So he knows to ask if I'm touched out before just coming and giving me a cuddle. But sometimes we'll be out and playing out in the park, and sometimes it's like, we've got to close the curtains, mate, because it's too bright outside. It's not a bright outside, but it is for me. and I've got to put my loops in and I've got to hide away. And that's really difficult for me because I'm his dad. I should be up, playing, active. And it's almost like he's having to cater to my needs a lot of the time. And he's almost like he's having to look after me. And I struggle with that quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Yeah, so powerful. I mean, yeah, parenting. I need to do some more episodes on that because it's a whole other thing. Because we kind of want to lead by example. We want to show them the power of taking care of yourself. It's very powerful. It's a really good lesson. You needing to have loops or be careful of light and things like that is actually a really good lesson for them to see. But also, we don't want them in any way to adjust who they are or what they're doing, so we feel better. They shouldn't have to change who they are so their parent can cope better. I think that's my number one rule. They shouldn't have to adjust anything, but they can watch you take care of yourself, which I think is beautifully powerful. And carrying on from what you said there's so many things I could respond to what you said there because it's so powerful. But there's something you touched on there towards the end, which Scott would really relate to your experience about the use of substances, the way of, you were talking about down there, like your mind's doing this, you're feeling something in your body. There's a physical sensation, there's an emotional sensation, and your brain's like, right, let's say, well, it's not. Of course, they're doing that. Cognitively, I understand that they're super busy, but it's like, but why would they go to bed without saying good night? That's weird. They've completely forgotten about my existence. They they don't want to say night night. But I always think we talk a lot about this in the last few weeks on the show. Take away the stories, take away the figuring it out, take away the cognitive functioning, the thoughts. Just come to your body, come to your state. What's my body up to? What am I feeling? What am I noticing? And how can I help my body out to not be in that state as such? So if you're in depressive dorsal state or sympathetic energy state, what can you do to help your body get back to ventral vagal to parasympathetic? Because if you're parasympathetic and you're present in this moment and you're happy, you're probably not going to be worrying so much about all of these things. The state that you're in is feeding your thoughts over and over again. You get stuck in a loop. Guess what? If you can't turn that off and you don't know or understand the language, what you're going to do? You're going to drink alcohol. You're going to take drugs. You're going to eat. You're going to, even hurt yourself, even potentially, which is just heartbreaking. Or whatever you're using to not feel what you're feeling and to switch your brain off. Good luck switching off both of those things. You can't unless it's complete annihilation to stop it. So sorry, Scott, I hope none of that was triggering when I said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what your thoughts there is kind of like, we have to tend to our emotions and our body to actually help our mind out as well and try not to just disappear into a pit of disassociation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, I'd say it's been the most revealing or transformative learning of mine over the last year and a bit, or 2 years now, since learning breath work and since learning about the nervous system, since learning about the fact that we store emotions, we store this kind of thing, these kind of things in our body, and that shapes everything for us. If we're in that, like you say, if we're in that state of just agitation, then that missed kiss at the end of a text message, you can just latch onto it and you continually theorize, and we're very good at our theories, right? Whereas I found that just very, very simple breathwork techniques, really simple techniques, just to slow your breathing down, increase the exhale longer than the inhale, and you can just bring your body back to I kind of think of your breath as a dimmer switch for your nervous system. You can just bring it back down, and you can just reduce that desire to go to an external substance. And I think for me, for so many years, that was my only tool, because I didn't really know what was going on. I just felt like I didn't want to hear the noise all the time. So going to that external drink or drug was the easy option. And sometimes I think for men, we want easy, quick solution now. I want the solution now. I don't want to do a year or 2 or 3 years of healing. I want the solution now. And that's good in some contexts, but not so much in this context. And so yeah, it's challenging. But for me, regular breath work and even ice bath. I pointed over there because there's an ice bath there. You can't see it. Even an ice bath. Just getting into environments where I'm just forced to be in my body, it just shuts it off, and it's so, I don't know, it's just so powerful. So I would, if I was going to say anything to anyone, is explore breathwork. Not necessarily with me, but explore breathwork. The simple techniques, because it really can make a big difference and help you short circuit that mental chatter that we have. And yeah, just to echo Dan as well, I've spent many a hour or two looking at text messages and looking at a different spelling and what does that mean? It's exhausting. And I'm so glad that that's minimized lately because of the medication and other things. So yeah.
Yeah, it's big. The word exhausting is come up quite a lot, and I think if we're going to sit here and be really honest about it, it is. If I was talking about what's the biggest impact for me of neurodivergent and those I've met, it is that exhaustion. Just to exist in this society, I'm not saying generally as a being, it's bloody exhausting trying to keep up, and have enough time to recover. That's the key, is having enough time to recover. I need solitude. Me and my partner have a deal with that. At the end of the night, we go off for a bit before bed, and it is been a game changer. It's been incredible. We sleep better afterwards as well. It's great. And I think you just to wrap all of that up with relationships, should you have neurotypical? Should you both be neurodivergent? Should the neurodivergent person be fully accepting? And should the other one be fully accepting? Can an accepting NDer and a non-accepting not quite there yet? Does that work? I'm not sure. It's as complicated as any relationship could be, but I think at the end of the day, it's all about cheesy. It's all about communication. It's all about understanding what's happening for yourself. Sorry, I realized I overreacted there. It's not using it as an excuse, but saying it's that I need to do better. Lush, amazing. That's great. And that's what me and my partner have. It works really, really well. We both know our ND. We both have these weird and wonderful things. And we laugh about it a lot as well, which is really, really powerful for us. And then honor it and have a little cry. Like, oh my God, I'm really struggling at the moment. And crying. Like the stress of me building up my business at the moment and trying to get it launched is just taking a bit of a toll on my energy stores because I work full time and I've got a kid and blah, blah, blah. So it is what it is. But Dan, let's wrap this up before we finish up. What are like three things that like kind of help you get embodied, get present? What really helps your mind go a bit quieter? Do you have any things that you kind of do that are useful?
Yeah, it's one thing is really trying to stop myself from feeling guilt for the things that sort of nowadays we're told to feel guilt for. Like, when I scroll through my phone while I'm watching a bit of TV at the same time, it's people spend just it's just brain rot scrolling through. But at that point I can just ignore everything else that's outside. I'm a sitcom that I've watched 100 times on TV, and I'm just scrolling through my phone. But for that 10 minutes, half an hour, however long it might be, nothing else really exists for a bit. And it's the one time that my brain's quiet. So that's definitely one. Another one would be going out for a walk. I love being out in nature anyway. I'm very lucky where I live. I'm looking out my window right now, and it's just trees and just near enough a forest right outside my window. So I love that. And another one is the gym. And again, it's just time that I can just headphones on and listen to a podcast. I've listened to some of your podcasts actually while we're on the gym. Listen to some music, depending on what I'm feeling. And I know it's that sort of cliche thing of if you eat right and you exercise, you'll feel better and it helps lift your mood. But it does. And I think again, especially for the ADHD side of things, it's releasing a lot of energy. I do find the more energy I'm exerting, the quieter my brain is. So, yeah, those are sort of the three things for me.
Power of the body, get your body moving. They always say like, is it Ned Halloway? Yeah, Ned Halloway always says, if you're stuck in rumination, you're sat there and you can't stop doing that, you feel flat, you feel whatever, move. Anything, do anything, just get up and do anything. Wash up, run on the spot, go out, pick something up and analyze it with your eyes, just anything, just do something. And your mind's like, oh, okay, we're doing this now, are we? And it's quite a clever way of working with your mind, which is great. I echo nature 100%. It's a game changer. And something you also talk about there that people think demonize, which is distraction. Distraction isn't the same thing. There's demonize. You should be focusing on the emotion in that very moment. Sometimes you might need a comfort watch. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine, one of my favorite comedies. I whack
Yes.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine on. I watch an episode. I forget about everything. I'm smiling. I know what I'm about to say. I know what the jokes are. I love all the characters. I'm in heaven. And like me and Dan say with WWE wrestling, I'm 42. It's probably ridiculous that I still watch wrestling. I disappear into this stupid world with just enough violence, not in a bad way, for it to be like, yeah, go on, get the bad guy. And I'm not
Yeah,
gonna, I'm gonna be cringe about that. I love it, and that's fine. And films, so
amazing.
that's with
Yeah.
films. Really important. So, Scott, you said, just as we wrap, you said breath work, you said about ice baths. Any more on the list there for you?
Yeah, so again, nature, just being out amongst trees. I live near the sea, so being near the sea is great. Just watching that. I also have comfort TV. Sopranos is mine, so less jovial, but it's just if it's there, I just feel like things are all right. It's just there. It's
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think gym and being active is really important to me, and I do see a direct correlation between when I can exercise consistently and my overall mood and I guess reactiveness. I go more to reacting rather than responding if I'm not exercising regularly and I'm not able to, get that energy out of me in some way. But yeah, the getting into the body. Breathwork's been massive, but yeah, and a bit of reading every now and then as well. But I have this thing where if I'm going to read, I want the conditions to be perfect, so that can start a whole other set of challenges. But yeah, get in the body, get out in nature, and talk to someone, maybe the right person. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. As a coach, oh, by the way, guys, coaching could be useful as well. A little plug there at the end. But yeah, we've got our two finale messages, but it would be remiss of me not to mention this, obviously, Dan, about testosterone. Let's just quickly mention it. So it's been seen in men of a certain age, late 30s into 40s, that testosterone is linked to ADHD. It can be quite low. Our body systems tend to be unregulated in some way or another across the board. That's part of neurodivergence. Is systems are slightly out of whack. Testosterone is a big thing. It's a new thing. You've had your test done and it was low, and now you're getting TRT, getting a replacement therapy. I've done mine. Mine is low, which explains a lot of why I'm stuck in sympathetic charge all the time. I'm using cortisol and stress hormone to power my energy rather than the healthier versions of energy usage. You are going to have to use some of those if you're exercising. There'll be fight and flight used. But testosterone is a big part of all of that, and it can affect your mood. It can affect your sex drive. There's lots of impacts there. I need to now go on the journey of further investigation, and it could change my life having some TRT. So, Jan, just quickly mention to us, how has it been getting the replacement therapy? What kind of differences have you seen?
Night and day. It's been night and day. So the first couple of weeks, again, so the neurodivergence helps with the first couple of weeks. So you don't get any actual changes, actual noticeable changes, but we do. A lot of neurodivergent people feel that because you've been excited to start it, and it's that it's something new, so you get that dopamine from the excitement, and you're on the right path. So a lot of people find they get more energy straight away from that, but after a few weeks, you do start getting noticeable changes of energy. So not just sort of feeling more hyper, but just I used to nap every single day. I had to nap. 34, 35 years old. I was doing the school run. I would maybe go to the gym for an hour, maybe go to work for an hour, one of the two, come home, and I'd have to have a good 2 hour nap, and then still groggy for the rest of the day. Since doing TRT, which has been almost 3 months now, I don't nap. I very, very rarely nap, and if I do, it's usually a mix of other things that have happened, a lot of other stresses that have happened, or just lack of sleep. Sleep's been better as well. So I've been sleeping. So my quality of sleep has been better, not necessarily the amount of time that I've been sleeping, but the restorative side of sleep has been amazing. Um, and so things like libido, sex drive, stuff like that. Um, there's marked improvement in that. Um, And so I've mentioned a couple of things on social media, a lot of things that a lot of guys won't talk openly about. But again, like, so I'm open and honest, I didn't have a high sex drive for a long time. That's gone up now. And also things like your morning wood, something that no guy really talks about, but that's something that you're still supposed to have in your 30s, 40s, and even potentially in your 50s. And I haven't since I'm 35 now, and I hadn't for a good 6, 7 years at least. And that's something that's come back as well just from starting TRT. So you do obviously get the added benefits of it helps with fat loss and muscle gain or muscle retention. Obviously, the bigger part of that is your diet and exercise, stuff like that. But that is an added bonus. But it's not obviously the main reason to do it. But the main thing is, yeah, the energy and just so along like with the neurodivergence, it's been able to focus a bit more. So I still have ADHD. I still have severe combined ADHD, but I am able to focus that little bit better just from doing TRT. And I'm also able to regulate my emotions a little bit better. So again, it's not like a complete game changer in terms of that, but a noticeable improvement. And I think because I'm unmedicated, for ADHD, I'm hoping to start that end of this year, beginning of next year. But wait, this is quite long. So for someone to be able to notice the impact that the TRT has had on my focus, attention, my mood, energy, all of that stuff, it's clearly doing something. And that's actually at quite a low dose of TRT as well. So I've got a blood test next week, and I think my dose will actually be upped because my testosterone levels still aren't where they should be. So that's just from being really low to sort of being here. When they go up to where they're supposed to be, like the high end of normal, I'll let you know how it goes. But I've got a good feeling that I'm just going to see more and more improvements. So it's definitely something I'd urge every man at 30 from the age of 30 and over do a blood test. It's a little finger prick test. Just get your bloods checked. It's so important, and it's not something that's spoken about at all. And I do talk openly and honest about it. All the nitty gritty bits, all the stuff that guys don't really want to talk about. I'll put it all out there for everyone because I want people to have the full story.
Amazing. Thank you so much, mate. And yeah, I echo that. So if any men listening, it's worth checking out. There's plenty of companies. The one that me and Dan use are really, really good. I'll put that in the show notes. But yeah, go check it out, guys. And all the women, I know most of the audience is women. If you have husbands, partners, older children, older sons, let them know about it. It might be worth checking. I'm glad I did. It explains a lot of some of the other stuff, like the way I store fat around my stomach and on my hips and all this kind of stuff would be common to that as well. So Scott, before we go, you've already done your parting message of joy previously on the previous episode. It may be the same, it may be different, but could send us off on a high note. Give us all those NDers some hope that everything's going to be okay. And what would be your message?
Yeah, everything is going to be okay. There's growing communities of people that are talking about this stuff and are there and ready to help you on your journey. And try as much as you can to lean into your strengths. And if whatever age you are, if you've got to where you are and you've had success by whatever definition you deem success to be, that's something to be proud of. It's something to really be proud of. When I got my diagnosis, I slipped into, what if this, what if that, what if that? And I realized I'd done all right. I'd done all right. And you'll do all right as well. Be gentle to yourself is again a bit of a easy thing to say, but do be gentle with yourself. Just you're human, and you're configured maybe to not exist in the society that we have, out of the box. But yeah, just love yourself through it. Love yourself through it, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Last 10 episodes has been a theme now about celebrating what you pulled off. Celebrate what you pulled off. considering your ND is such a wonderful way to reflect on your past rather than the other way around. Oh my God, I wish I'd done this, or I can't believe I left so late. It's a big theme at the moment. It's brilliant. So here's your chance, Dan, to rewrite your history by giving us your message of joy once again for anybody listening.
I think just being part of the neurodivergent community is, it's amazing. Honestly, I think where a lot of us don't do small talk, we don't do the sort of little false niceties. It's, where you stand with with a lot of neurodivergent people, and because of that, the connections are genuine. Obviously, Scott, this is the first time we've spoken. We've spoken briefly through Instagram, but it's the first time we've spoken face to face. And already, I feel like we're on the same wavelength for a lot of things. Get on well, and I'm looking forward to sort of keeping up a friendship with you. Owen, we've become friends in quite a short space of time, and a lot of people in the neurodivergent community are like that. Well, obviously, like when I got my diagnosis a couple of weeks, got my report finally through, the first person I contacted was Owen. So, someone that I've only known a few months, but is already a true friend. And that's what I feel like a lot of this community is about. So, sort of feel like you've got fewer friends than you did when you were younger and you were out all the time partying and stuff, but the friends that you do have are genuine friends. They're not just acquaintances or people that are using you. This is a genuine connection. It's a genuine community, and it's it's definitely one of the many big positives of being neurodivergent.
Yeah, it sure is. And thank you for that. A year ago, this podcast didn't exist. I set it up. I didn't know Dan was, Scott, they didn't exist. I didn't know they were humans that were on this planet. But look, we're all three of us on a call now. I've got new friends out of this, and we fall fast. We make friends quickly I think, as neurodivergents. We drawn to each other, and it's really special. So yeah, do reach out, guys. This is what I've created this. I've got about 40, 50 new friends now in the last year from this, and just where I like it, voice messages, maybe a meetup, but I'd rather just do voice messages occasionally. I don't want to go to a busy pubs too oversensitized. So
Yeah.
lean in. Amazing. Thank you, Scott.
No,
Thank you, Dan. I'll put all the links in the show notes for the previous episodes, all the work that you're doing. I'm sure you'll be back on at some point. I just want to thank both of you so much for being in my life and being part of this really supportive community.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you.
Great.
Amazing
Thank you,
stuff.
Dan.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time for more exploration of neurodivergence.